On the incredibly sad death of Michael Mason, I have, since putting this question to you, I have in fact spoken to senior officers and asked lots of questions, and it does seem that they did what they could, and that a prosecution, in spite of 13 witnesses and the driver admitting that she should have seen the cyclist in front of her, in spite of all of that, there won't be any prosecution. And it seems, I think, a lot of cyclists are now feeling that you can kill a cyclist and there are no legal consequences. And I'm just curious about what you think could be done differently to make sure that if there is a death that is actually caused by somebody doing whatever, that there are legal consequences for it.
Well, as I said earlier on, I think all our thoughts and our sympathies are with the family of Mr. Mason, but I can only repeat what I said in my earlier remarks, Jenny, that the police took very careful account of all these circumstances, and they concluded it wasn't possible to mount a prosecution, that the coroner closely looked at the case and heard the witnesses that you mentioned, and concluded his verdict was death by road traffic collision with no culpability implied. And I'm afraid it is very difficult for us sitting in this place, or sitting in our seats here, to second guess that decision. And what I can tell you is that obviously we are working very hard to reduce cycling casualties and cycling fatalities, and actually the deaths and serious injuries in the last year were 28% down on previous years. And I just remind you, on the year before that, I just remind you that in the 1980s, when I took up cycling in London, you know, that was a long time ago, but I can give you an example. KSIs per journey have fallen 75% since 1989. 33 cyclists were killed in that year, and 752 seriously injured. And the figures, as everybody knows now, are much lower. That is in part because of the investment that we're making in the roads, in education, but also in prosecuting all road users for disobeying the law. And as you know, Operation Safeway is there not just to look at what motorists are doing, but to look at what cyclists are doing. And when cyclists jump the light, and when cyclists mount the pavement in an aggressive way, then they will be stopped and they will be fined. And I think that's right. And actually, it is leading to a reduction in KSIs.
Well, as I said to you before, I don't support any cyclist who breaks the law. I'm punctilious about stopping at red lights, however long it takes. I think there's a feeling from many cyclists that, first of all, there's no legal consequences to their deaths and injuries, or not enough. But secondly, that they're often blamed themselves for causing their own deaths or injuries. And we constantly hear from the police, and I've spoken to senior officers recently, and I still get this refrain about, well, if you were wearing a helmet and high-vis, you'd be perfectly safe. But in fact, of course, Mr. Mason was wearing a helmet. He had fully legal lights, and yet, no legal consequences to his death. You must see that there's something wrong with the law here. What I'm saying to you is, would you actually think about how the law could be improved?
As I say, I think you need to give some more detail about how exactly you propose to change the law. The existing law has abundant statute to protect us against reckless driving or careless driving.
But apparently not.
And if I can only repeat that the police did find it, in this case, difficult to prosecute using the very many current protections that cyclists enjoy.
Could I ask you to ask the Commissioner of Police if he would actually make a statement saying that he fully accepts the Met's role in protecting cyclists who are legally on the road, cyclists and pedestrians?
Well, I think to be fair to Bernard, I think he's made such statements many times.
Well, it won't hurt to do it
if you look
again,
back to November last year, the Met was in the lead in deciding to institute Operation Safeway, which, as I said, led to, I think, in the first few months, to 14,000 penalty charges or fines being issued against cyclists and motorists together. And that led to a very significant reduction in those who were killed and seriously injured. If I could just repeat the figures, Jenny, I think perhaps it might be appropriate for you to pay tribute to the Met
Mr. Mayor, I'm
their
asking
work
you
in reducing
about
care size by 28% this year.
Happened. Please concentrate. You have a responsibility for safety on our streets. We all here want more cycling, and the thing that stops most people from cycling is the perception of danger on our streets. And the more that the police can actually say and do.
I think what stops people cycling is people needlessly scaremongering about it, when actually the figures are showing that there's been a very substantial reduction in care size and a very substantial increase in safety. And I think that what people would like to hear from you, Jenny, is an acknowledgement of the role of the Metropolitan Police in helping to bring those figures down.